All right, guys, here we go. So back in Photoshop. So what it appears is we need to give the refine mask tool more information. That just trying to use the quick selection tool inside there was not enough for us to actually get that part to work. So that's what we are going to do right now. So first things, bless you. First things first, to actually find out where we, again, we're going to start the exact same way we've been doing before. What I'm looking to do now is to separate the skin from the hair. So I'm looking to keep hair and lose the skin. That's what I'm actually going to try to do on this one. So again, I'm going to take a look here at my red channel, and what I'm looking for is contrast between the hair and the skin. So that's what the red channel looks like. That's what the green channel looks like, which is worse. And then finally the blue channel, which is the worst one of all. So it is the red channel is going to be the one to actually separate the hair from her skin. So again, I'm going to drag this down to make a copy of the red channel. I'm going to rename this hair knockout or knockout hair. And say okay to that. I'm going to actually zoom into this area up at her forehead. We're going to do the exact same things that we've been doing before in terms of putting down points. Now, again, what you can see in this hair, I'm at that one big curl that's right at the sort of the top of her forehead. There's an area right here that's right next to her forehead that's extremely dark. If I get that dark area to go black, this grayer area will not be black yet. If I get this grayer area, though, to go black, that black area will have already gone black long before it. So I'm feeling pretty good about this point that I've picked right here as a hair point that should actually be solid hair, and that should actually go ahead and go to black. So that's the point that I'm going to actually pick for this. And then I'm going to put yet another point out here. So in my case now, I've got points number 5 and 6. So 5 is the one that's in the hair. 6 is the one that's on the outside. I went ahead and laid these points down, but in your case, you're going to need to change your readouts to, again, RGB color for both your next two readouts. In my case, I ended up with hair value of roughly 92 and a skin value of about 187. You should be close to that. Doesn't have to be exact, but close. Command L to bring up the levels dialog box. And again, I'm watching this figure right here, this 92. I need to get that down to 0. So I just start dragging up. I get close. I go to my arrow keys. And then I grab the white point slider and I drag it back. And again, I'm looking for my point number 6 now to get to white. I get close and I go to my arrow keys. And then I look at this, and so Lindsay, this would be a perfect example case where I look at this and I say, this is too blocked up. My number 1 point was too aggressive, because you can look at this. This is just absolutely solid in here. If you use your preview button to go on and off, you can see that there's areas of skin in here that have absolutely just gone. Those things are gone. They're totally black. So I'm too aggressive with my black point slider. So it's not that you have to pick another point to actually do this on. You can actually just take your back slider and start to pull it back off to the point that you feel like you've got a better actually mask that's actually happening. So I've backed mine off a little bit. I'm reading a 56 for my black point right now. Again, I'm going to go back to the preview button and turn that on and off. And I feel like this is actually giving me a much better mask in terms of that edge transition just by the side of her hair. That's what I'm really concerned about right here. I'm not concerned about anything else, although it may be still a little bit aggressive down here on the bottom part down here. So I'm actually going to back it off even a little bit more. And that's just opening up a little bit of that skin that's right in there. I feel better about that. So what I ended up with was a black point of 41 and a white point of 166. And again, there's no, this is all I can say to you is that this is just, you know, it's not science. This is the art part of it all. So I'm going to go ahead and say okay to that. I am only concerned about this edge. I don't care about the rest of her hair at all. This edge is the only thing that I care about in what I'm trying to do right here. So I'm going to fix this. I'm going to clean this up just a little bit right now before I go any further. So I'm going to hit the B key to get a brush. I am going to change it to an overlay brush. I am going to make sure that it is a hard overlay. I'm going to do like a in the 80s overlay brush, relatively hard edge, but not completely totally hard. Overlay is my blending mode, 100% opacity, 100% flow. And then again, I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. These areas that are here on the outside that I know are background, I want to keep those as background. But these other, oops, make sure black is your foreground color. These other areas that are really close to this guy, I know I can actually, I know that those are all highlights, so I can go in and get all of those. I'm going to stay away from the area that I know is actually her skin. I've got to check to make sure that this area right in here, I can't tell whether that's supposed to be skin or hair. That's actually skin. And again, you don't need to kick out too far. You're just trying to get as clean an edge as you can actually get in there. And again, once I get down to her fingers, I'm not going to worry about that part. Then up along the top, I'm going to do the exact same thing up in there. Again, staying away from that edge. The levels control that we did created that edge for us, so let's just leave that guy as it is. But I can clean up the rest of this. Now there's a weird thing that's happening down here. Again, as far as the skin part goes, what I need to do is I need the skin to be white and the and her hair to actually be black. So there's this weird area that's sitting in between her fingers right down here. You're going to have to get this with a pen tool. There's no other way of really doing it. So again, I'm just going to draw those out. There may be a way on a different layer that may actually exist in here, but it's just easier to go after this. And I'm going after the entire hand. I'm going after that thumbnail, the whole 9 yards. Oh, shoot. Lost track of what I was doing. All right, so I've actually got this area that's now protected in here. So again, I'm going to load this path as a selection. I'm going to feather that selection a half a pixel. Then I've got to invert the selection because I'm trying to get this, I'm trying to protect this area that's in the middle here that is actually her hair. And I want to go after the skin part right here. So again, up to select, inverse, hit the D key to get a brush, make sure it's a normal brush. White is my foreground color. And just get that area that's right around there. This is just her skin. Back on that. Command D to deselect. There's other things that we can do really quick. What? We are getting the hair out, but we're trying to make the hair part black, and I'm also trying to make the skin white. So as long as I have the edge, is the only thing that matters. Right? If I've got the skin edge is white, that's what matters to me. We'll see what happens in this area down in here. But meanwhile, I'm going after the rest of this part right here. So for her eyes, all of this area in here, this can all be, again, overlay brush. Medium softness, overlay brush. And then again, just start to take this stuff out. I'm going to make a much softer brush right here to go in to try to deal with this area right in here. And I'm also going to drop my opacity some. So completely soft brush, lower opacity, bigger brush. Again, overlay hopefully will help me out in this area right in here. And I'm just clicking and dragging and pulling out. You're never going to get everything perfect. What you're just looking to do is get a reasonably good edge going on in here. Dig out just a little bit of this area that should be skin. Try not to be too aggressive on the hair. Do the same thing up here. And I'm just tapping and pulling in just a little bit. You can definitely clean up this edge. It's over here. At this point right here, where it's really there's a hard edge and you can see her eyelashes, whatever. I'm going to go back to a normal brush. I'm going to make it a completely hard brush. Oops. Make sure it's 100% opacity. I'm going to get rid of that, and then hit the X key to go to white and get rid of that. And get rid of her eyeball. So I'm feeling really pretty good about this part right here. I've got this part. I'm not worrying about this outside of her hair right here. That doesn't matter to me. That's going to come from, we've already made that selection. That's actually background. But what I was really looking to try to do, I'm going to go ahead and go after her fingers as well. So this was the edge that I was looking to try to create, doing all of that work. And I feel like that edge is actually pretty good in here. The hair is still white in here as far as this part goes. I've still got a selection that's actually going, an active selection that's going on in here. And I'm going to save this selection. We may have to come back to this guy. So it's still an active path going. So I'm going to do new path. I'm sorry, not a new path, but save this path. You need to select the work path to actually save it. And I'm going to call it left-hand hair something. Some description for it. I'm sorry, right-hand hair. Just so I don't have to pick it again. And I'm going to say OK to that. OK, so I'm going to double-click on the hand to kick back out. Command D to deselect. I want to use this thing now in my to try to refine this. You know, again, to use the select and mask tool to try to refine this. So I am going to go back up to the top and load my RGB channel so that I'm actually working in layers. I'm going to click on layers. I'm going to scooch down to this knockout here, and I'm going to command click to load it as a selection, and then apply it as a layer mask here because it's the only way I can get into that. However, I realized when I apply this as a layer mask that it's actually the inverse of exactly what I want. So I'm simply going to invert the mask, Command I. Because again, what I'm trying to do is refine this edge. I want to see the hair. I don't want to see the skin. That's what I'm actually trying to build right here. So that's what I'm going after as far as this part goes. So I'm going to zoom in on this guy a little bit and take a look. I've still got that pen tool selection going. If you don't want to look at that guy anymore, simply click outside the path so you don't see it. But in this selection area, in the guy that I'm actually working with in here, we could probably clean this mask up a little bit more while I'm here. So to see the mask by itself, if you simply hold down the Option key and click on the mask, you will see just the mask itself. And so there is some cleaning up that we can do on this. Again, I'm going to go back to the B key to get a brush. It's going to be a normal brush. I am going to make sure it's a completely hard brush. White is my foreground color. And what I want to simply do is, again, I'm not going after edges. I'm just cleaning up all this highlight hair that's in the middle because it's bugging me. I'm just working on the layer mask. If you hold down the Option key and click on the layer mask, you simply see the layer mask. And again, I'm going to clean up a little bit on the other side. You can still clean up a little bit. You'll see I've got a little bit of stuff that's happening in our skin as well. So I'm going to hit the X key and clean up a little bit of that part as well. And there we go. So this is the mask that I'm actually now going to try to refine. So I'm going to go, and again, I'm just looking for this one edge. Don't worry about this edge that's out here. We've already got that one. It's already been made. It's just where the skin is meeting her hair. So again, with this mask selected, I'm going to click on the Select and Mask. I'm going to come in, and I'm going to simply see what happens in this. Oh, actually, cancel back out really quick. We need a white background to actually see this on. So I'm going to click on my background layer, and I'm going to add a blank layer to this underneath it. In my case, because white is my background color, Command Delete fills that with white. And now click on your mask to make your mask active and go back into Select and Mask. And now when we actually look at this thing on layers, it'll show you the work that we're actually trying to do in here. You'll actually be able to see it in here better. So again, in here, we okay? Yep, exactly. My view is on layers. So in here, I'm going to actually just use the Refine Edge tool. So not the quick selection tool, not the paintbrush, just the Refine Edge. And I'm just going to run it along this area in here and see if I feel like this thing helps me out or not. So I drug it along just this one part right in here. Again, you can't, it's either on or off. I mean, running it twice or 3 times across doesn't change it at all. What you're doing is you're actually adding this edge. You're saying, I want you to run your algorithm on this. That's what I want to have happen. So if you use show original on and off, you can see and say to yourself, and I'm going to ask you guys, did this improve this thing or not? Say what? Oh, I think it massively improves it. It fucked this part up down here at the bottom, but this area that's right in here, look at this area that's right in here, that was my original, all fucked up, losing hair right here, burning. This is now where I'm at right now. I'm actually going to paint in here just a little, sorry, turn that off. Just a little bit in there to get something in there going. This area right down here where I don't like what it was doing, it's actually picking up the thumb and all that. Simply hold down the Option key to remove it. So I'll show you the edge. This is the edge, and I don't want it to be working on this area right down in here. So again, if you hold down the Option key, you remove that from being considered for this algorithm. That's what's going on in here. There's a little area back in here that I'm probably going to pop and add to see if I can get just a little bit more in there. I don't really think it worked that well in this area right here. So again, I'm going to hold down the Option key to get rid of that part. Then I'm going to start looking at the top. I'm feeling pretty good about this top right here, but I'm just going to see what the tool does as I run across it to see if that helped or hurt. Again, use show original to actually bring that on and off. I think the original was better, so I'm going to get rid of that, simply holding down the Option key and getting rid of this. And then finally, this edge that's running down along here, you can click and run it down this edge and say, is this helping or hurting? I think that that edge was in much better shape before, so I'm going to say no to that. The only thing I was thinking that it actually really ever helped me on was this one edge that's running right along this side over here. So I am going to go ahead and accept that to my layer mask. Again, use your show original on and off and say, does this help you or does this hurt you, right? If you feel like there's an area, like for instance, there's some highlights in her hair right here that really should be part of that mask. If you feel like these things should be included in your mask, you need to click on the final thing down here, which is the paintbrush tool. The paintbrush tool is simply painting into your mask. So when you come along with him, unfortunately, they don't have overlay. They don't have blending modes for this. Maybe they will do that in their next iteration. It would actually be great. But this lets you sort of like go in and maybe hit some of those spots that you feel like should actually still be a part of this. You can go in and fine tune this actually pretty good in terms of some of these that you feel like should actually still be a part of this that maybe the refined mask didn't actually do such a good job on. So you can simply, again, the paint tool, all it's doing is going in and painting the mask really hard is what is basically happening in there. So again, I'm feeling reasonably good about this part, so I'm going to go ahead and apply this to my layer mask. So I'm going to go ahead and say okay to that. Double click on the hand and come back and see exactly how it is we did. So now I've actually got this inside edge, this hair, the edge that I've got on the inside right here. That part I've got. What I don't have is the outside edge of her hair, but I already have that to begin with. I had this when I did the blue background. So I am going to, again, in this case right here, the original hair knockout that we've got that started this whole process, I do not need this anymore. The mask that's sitting on here has been refined, it's been painted on, this is a much better version. So I am not going to use this hair knockout. I'm going to throw it away. I am going to make a copy of my blue knockout background because this blue knockout background has got the outer edge of the hair that I already want. There's no way you can make this again. So I'm simply going to copy the blue knockout background, simply drag it down. I'm going to rename it Knockout Hair. Now, Just not. Yeah. So give this a little while. Save your work, quit it, and open it up again. Okay. Okay, so this is my hair knockout, the one I just copied and labeled. So in the hair knockout, do I want the hair part to be white or black on my mask? I want to see the hair. White. So is that what's going on right now? No. So how do I fix that? I invert it. Command I. So that gives me the outside of the hair. However, now I need, does the skin area need to be black or white? The skin area actually needs to be black, right? However, I've got skin area going. You can see my mask is still sitting right here. If you click and you look on the skin guy right here, just turn on the eyeball next to it. Turn off the RGB guy so you can actually see it. It's the mask that you've just been working on, the thing that we just refined. Let's go after this a different way. Let's just go back in a different, completely different way. So have you copied the hair knockout and inverted it? Okay, fine.
What channel should we have?
You should have actually 4 channels visible, but one of them is temporary because it's your mask is visible. So if you uncheck the eyeball next to the thing that you've got that mask on, you should, or actually just click on the white thing. You should only see 3 knockouts. You should see the knockout for the blue background, the knockout for the sweater, and then you just copied the knockout for that blue background and inverted it and renamed it knockout hair. That's what you should have. We all good on that? Okay. I'm going to come back up to the RGB guy and turn it on. I am going to turn on the sunny top layer right here. And again, if you hold on the option key and you look at it, and you can see that right now that I need the skin on this hair mask down here at the bottom to be black. I've got everything else is white. I need the skin part down here. I need her face to be black, just like it is right here. However, if I load this thing as a selection and start to paint with it, is it going to paint on the skin or is it going to paint on the hair? It's going to paint on the hair. If you load this as a selection, well, here, let's look. Let's just load this as a selection. Command click to load that as a selection. Add another layer on top of this. And then just start to paint. Take a paintbrush, grab a paintbrush on this top layer right here and start to paint, and you'll see that it paints in the hair. It protects the skin. It paints the hair. We need it to do the exact opposite. So I'm going to hit Command Z to undo that. Command D to deselect. I'm going to get rid of that layer that I just added on top. So what I need to do is I need to load this selection and save it. I need to load this mask as a selection to save it. How do I do that? Command click to load it. And then how do I save that as a selection? Up to the select menu, down to save selection, and I'm going to call this temporary skin. And say, okay, Command D to deselect. You can actually throw this mask away now. And when you go to throw it away, it's going to say, do you want to delete it, cancel, or apply it? You never apply your masks. You would simply hit delete it to get rid of it. So now what you should have is actually 4 channels over here. Your original knockout for your blue layer, your sweater knockout, the knockout that we've got going for this hair that's going to be our complete one, and then this temporary skin one. However, if you look at your temporary skin one, I need to load this as a selection so that I can paint, and the skin area will actually be painted on. So this mask needs to be inverted. Command I will invert it. Now when I load this as a selection, the hair will be protected on this edge. The skin will actually be painted, and I should be good to go, right? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to load this as a selection. Command click. Then I'm going to make my knockout layer active. I'm going to zoom in to this edge. Again, this is a 1 paint stroke because I've got, what I'm trying to do is maintain transparency in here. So with a normal brush, 100% opacity, 100% flow, black is your foreground color. It does not really matter what kind of edge you've got on this brush right now because the channel is going to do the selection for you. I mean, the selection is going to keep it in for you. Yes. You inverted it while you had a selection going. So go back in space to. Good. Right now, hit Command D to deselect. Come down and just load this as a selection. You don't need to pick it, just load it. Command click, and you are good to go. I'm so sorry. Yeah, all right. Okay, so with this selected now, again, this is a one-shot deal. So take your brush. We're going to actually come down in this area right down in here. I'm just clicking and dragging across this edge to make sure that I'm actually getting the transparency of that edge, holding down the space bar to give me this guy, coming around to give me this guy, coming down to give me this guy. What are you confused about? All I'm trying to do is get this edge. I just got it, didn't I? Yeah. Then go back. So go back to your load selection. Go back in space. You should be looking on. Can't one start when it's around. Okay. Hit Command D to deselect. You need somehow this button go to Command Z. No, you're good. You made the selection button. You just need to input your selection itself. No, you didn't invert this. Oh, yes, you did. There you go. Okay, so just paint in the edge. Don't paint anything else. That's all you wanted to do as far as this part goes. So Command D to deselect, and the rest of it you should be able to fill in. So again, the rest of it with just a regular brush. Again, you're just trying to get rid of those edges right here. You can go after this part in here. Again, don't go over the area that you just made with that beautiful brush. And I've got enough going here that I can go after this with a lasso tool now. And simply come in. And fill that with black. What do you mean how to get rid of the finger? You don't want to get rid of the finger. The finger should be black. It's skin. Oh, here? Then pen tool and paint it out. I'm going to do a little bit of overlay still work on this guy really quickly. It's not very much. It's just a little touch right here and a little bit of that right there. And in my case, I feel like this is the beginning of a good hair mask. So, but we're not done yet. Where are you guys at? Don't worry about the finger right now. It's always something you can go after again. Is there an end to that question? That's because you don't have a selection going on anymore. It's okay, you're fine. Just be careful about it. Zoom in, sorry. Zoom in, and then just use your overlay brush, but don't go out into your hair. Make a small brush and just try to paint along the lines. Okay. All right. This you can hit the hammer. Okay, so we're almost there, guys. I need to see what this guy looks like. So to see what this guy looks like, we are going to load this. Temporary skin has done its job. Throw it away. You don't need it anymore. Save your work, Command S. Load your hair knockout as a selection. Come back up into this Sunny, into the new Sunny copy of that, and let's go ahead and apply this and see what it ends up looking like. And you can sort of see it does a reasonably good job. Things start to fall apart a little bit down here in the edge. We'll see how this works once we go ahead and build the final skin layer. But for the time being right now, I'm feeling pretty good about this. You could possibly come in here and clean this part up a little bit. This is where my thumb was right there. This part I think I could clean up a little bit more, but let's see what happens when we actually do the final mask and all of this. So the final mask and all of this starts this way. We've got the hair mask that's already on here. It's the one that's actually called Sunny. That was the one we actually put on here to begin with. I'm going to now load, because what I'm trying to come up with is just the skin. Does that make sense? Okay, and I can just do it here on my mask layer. You don't have to do it here on your mask layer. So here, let's keep things simple. I'm going to throw that mask away, and I'm only going to do it down here in my knockout parts right here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy again the very original one, the one that I've been working with all along, the one that I actually started with. Is that the one I want to use here? Yeah, okay, I'll do that. So I'm going to copy the knockout blue background one more time. I'm going to start with him, and I'm going to rename it, and we're going to call it Knockout Skin. And say okay. I'm now going to load the hair. Again, the hair knockout that we've just made. Command click to load it. It's now sitting on this, but I'm still working on my knockout skin, so I just loaded the hair. And again, I'm just going to use Command delete to get rid of the hair right there. And so the hair part's actually gone. I'm going to have some cleanup to do. I understand all of that. Command D to deselect. If I want to do my cleanup right now, I can. I would hit the B key to get a brush. Again, I'm going to avoid this edge of her hair right along here, but I'm going to go after all of this stuff down here, this part right down here. That shouldn't be a part of mine. So again, I can keep it as an overlay brush. I want to make sure it's a hard brush though, and a little bit larger. And I'm undo, make sure white is your foreground color. And I'm going to clean all of that part out right there. I'm not going to touch the edge of her hair right there, but the rest of this, I'm going to clean up all of that because I don't need any of that. When I get next to her hand, the overlay brush should take care of me there. I'm going to zoom into this area right in here. That center part right there comes out as well, as does that edge. So that part has actually kept my edge in there pretty well. So I like that part works. The next thing I'm going to load is the sweater. Command click to load on the sweater. It loads that part right now. And again, working on my knockout skin layer, I'm simply going to fill this as well with white. All right, have you cleaned up the rest of the hair so that you've got your images looking basically like this? Okay, so now I need to get rid of the sweater. So I'm just command click to load the sweater as a selection. And again, fill that with white. Command D to deselect. You will have these little edges here, these dovetail edges. This is actually not a mistake. This is how Photoshop actually works. But you simply clean these guys out. Simple to do. The other side as well. Simple to do. Double click on the hand. Probably. That little guy right there. Yep. Good call. Okay. And then finally, double click on the hand. If I want the skin to be a knockout, should the skin be white or black? So what do I do? And save my work. So in looking at this, I'm also spotting some, look at my screen really quick, guys. It's really hard to see, but you see this little, there's contamination right here. There's contamination right up here as well. It's something that you guys need to start getting in the habit of doing, and that is you need to start looking at your masks just as the masks, not as anything else, to spot these things, because you will spot them that way. You'll spot that guy right there. Let me show you something else really quick. I'm going to invert my mask again, and you can sometimes spot it easier. Sometimes you'll see that black against the gray. In my case, I don't see it here, but when I invert it, I spot it right here. I see that right there. And so it's just a thing to start looking around your mask to sort of see how things are going. There's a little dot right there that I need to get out, and the rest of it actually feels pretty good as far as that part goes. Are we good on this? So then let's see how we ultimately ended up doing. Again, save your work. So the first one I'm going to do, I'm just going to do them in order. I'm going to load the blue background. I'm going to keep this new copy of Sunny. I'm going to keep a virgin copy of her underneath this layer right here. I am going to then copy her again and bring it up. So that'll be for my sweater. I need 4 of them on top of the new Sunnies. Just 4 copies of it, because I want 1 for the sweater, 1 for the skin, 1 for the hair, and 1 for the background. That's 4. Okay, so I'm going to just do them one at a time. I'm going to load the blue background. Command-click to load it. I'm going to turn off the top 3 Sunnies, and I'm simply going to apply the blue background right here. And so that shows my blue background. I think that part worked out well. The next part I'm going to do is load the sweater. So again, I'm going to load my knockout sweater. I'm going to go to my next layer right now and apply that as a layer mask and turn its eyeball on, and that's just showing me the sweater. So far, so good. The next one I'm going to do is actually going to be the hair. Again, command-click to load the hair and get onto the hair part right here and apply that as a layer mask and turn its eyeball on. And that's the hair part. And then finally, I'm going to do the skin. And load that and put this guy on. So this is what mine actually looks like, and these are the parts that are put together. Now you can see that you end up with some issues here. There's a little line that runs along here. This is actually called a dovetail issue. I'll show you what that is and how to fix that in just a second. But the bigger issue that people are going to complain about is this issue that's around her hair right here, about this edge right here. It got things pretty good, but it's not really completely finessed there. You can see that that's actually, parts of it seem pretty good, parts of it not so good, whatever. But so we're going to go ahead and fix these parts. To fix these, you need to realize what's really going on. So I'm looking at strictly the hair layer that's up here. I'm looking at the last 2. I'm looking at the skin layer and the hair layer both. I'm going to start with the skin layer, which is this guy right here. You can tell it's the skin layer because it's the white area that's around the skin. So what I'm going to do, if you hold down again the Option key and click on that mask, what you can see is the problem is this area right here. It's this gray area right here is, it's too gray. It's not letting the skin come through. So I need to fix that. The way you fix this, again, would be with an overlay brush. However, we need to watch this happen in real time now, because this is going to be a balancing act between the hair and the skin and the hair and the skin. So this is how it works. If you select, hold down the Option key and click on your mask again, you'll go back to seeing the whole thing in real time. Select the mask for the face, which you can tell it's the white area of the face. Make sure it is the active one. Hit the B key to get a brush. Make sure that this is a soft brush now. Change your blending mode to overlay and drop your opacity down to like a 50%. Hit the X key to give yourself white as your foreground color and make your brush a little bit larger. And then what I'm simply going to do is I'm going to start to come in and paint on this area, and you can see that it's actually taking some of that line out. Remember, this brush is cumulative, so I'm going to hit it a couple of times, but be careful. You don't want to start tearing up the hair part too much. So I'm going to do just one sort of pass with that all the way around, like that. Then I'm going to go to my hair layer, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. It's in the hair layer, but again, the hair layer is also a white mask. So none of your changes, none of these things change. You're still using an overlay brush. White is still your foreground color. You're still working at this reduced opacity, but now you're going over the same area again, which actually pushes in a little bit more of the hair to actually get that part out. And you can actually come in and pretty much deal with the whole dovetailing issue. Yes? If you hit it twice or 3 times or 4 times, it's just whatever it takes to actually ultimately fix this guy. Make sense? Yeah. Same issue can hold true of the sweater. This is where the sweater is actually meeting the skin. So again, I can go back to my skin layer here to begin with, my skin mask. Again, with that reduced overlay brush, I'm going to make my brush a little bit smaller now so that I'm not painting over too much of this guy. And you can run it along that skin line right there and actually remove some of the dovetailing. In my case, I think all of the problem is in the skin mask, so I'm going to hit Command-Z to undo it. I'm going to go ahead and bump my opacity all the way up to 100%, and I'm going to try that move again. And you can see that it gets rid of that little bit of shadowing. There's some other issues that are on the other side. You can see there's little highlights that are around issues right here. I think this is back, actually this may be path. Yeah, this is actually path work that's actually showing in here. So again, I'm going to go back into my skin mask. I'm not sure if this is the right one, but we'll see what it does right here. Actually, it gets part of it right here, but I think the other one you're going to have to do is the background mask as well, I think. That's a mistake. Anyway, what may end up happening here, you may have to actually clone this guy out, whatever. This gets a little tricky in here where it's actually happening here because this is actually the width of the pin, of the path itself is what's really going on here. So that one we may have to trick out a different way. But the bigger, more important issue in this is this. We've just done this, and the masks are so successful, we actually were able to rebuild Sunny, right? But the trick to this is to not think of this as just using masks to do stuff like this. Because who does stuff like this? Who really does stuff like this? Nobody, right? What people do with this, though, is this. You can turn all of those layers off. You can turn the white layer off as well. I want you to go to click on top of the new Sunny. And what I want you to do is come over, and so everything is off except for the new Sunny. That's all that's on, and the new Sunny is the active one. I'm just going to come over, and I'm going to load the knockout sweater. Command-click to load the sweater. It just loaded the sweater. I'm going to then come over to my adjustment layers. I'm going to click on, not mask, but I'm going to click on the adjustment layer, and I'm going to come up to solid color, and it will put on a solid color, and I'm going to pick a red. If you want the same red as me, I've got a 222 red, 14 green, and 14 blue. And I'm going to say OK to that. And then I'm going to change the blending mode of that color fill layer from normal to color. And you just created a pink sweater. If you double click on that color swatch again and drag it down to turquoisey, whatever, you get a turquoise sweater. Now, I personally think these colors are all too saturated. So again, if you double click on your solid color, click on the S button for saturation and drop the saturation down to something that's believable, that's not going to be this nuclear sweater. And then click on it again, on solid color again, and you can actually pick, oh, let's do pink, sort of a purpley sweater. Oh, let's pick another color here. Let's do the green sweater. Oh, let's pick another color here. Are you kidding me? Gets better. Load your background layer, your blue background knockout. Command-click to load it. Do the very same trick again, a solid color on this. It comes up, really gray, yeah, right? I don't know what, hang on one second. I don't know where I came up with in as far as this part goes. Okay, Command-click has loaded the background as a selection. Solid color is what I'm looking for here. It's actually giving me black. Let's put in a solid color. Let's do green or something like that. I'll go ahead and say OK to that. Again, it's too saturated of a color, so click on the S box to actually drop it back down. So if you want the exact same color that I've got going on right now, look at this. I'm going to make the color of her shirt the same thing as her background. Let's try a different color. Yeah, let's try this. So if you want the same color I've got, it's a 175 red, 192 green, 115 blue, and say okay to that. That's a pretty ugly color though, isn't it? Okay, click on this again. Let's pick a pink back there and say, ooh, okay, purple back in there. You see where this whole thing is going, right? Yes.
But what would you do with the
Right, so the spill, the final thing that we actually need to deal with, right? So there are two ways of dealing with spill. I'm going to turn off both of my color layers right now just so that we go back to our original. If we wanted to actually deal with the spill, what I'm going to do is let's turn on the white layer and let's turn on the very first one, which was, it's not the one I want actually. What I want is the hair one that's right here, to turn on the hairline so that you can actually see the spill. Some of you guys actually fixed the spill in the wrong layer. You fixed it on the background layer, and then when you went to put it all together, you had this really gray background. So what's happening, so has everybody got this where you can just see the hair, right? Okay, and you see the blue in the hair in the background, right? Okay, so this is how you fix spill. What we really need to do is we need to change the color of this. And the easiest way to do it on a white background like this is to simply make it the same color as her regular hair. So in order to do that, you take the B key, which is a brush. You need to make sure that you are working now on the pixel layer, not on the mask, but on the pixel layer. This is a destructive move. That's why you have to be doing this on a copy. You cannot be doing this on the Virgin New Sunny that's sitting down here. You need to be doing this on a copy. Yes. Okay, yes. All I did was turn on my white layer and then turn on the layer at the top that's the visibility, the layer that's the top that's showing her hair. And then you need to pick the pixel layer that is her hair. And you can tell it's the pixel layer because it's got the little brackets around it, right? Yeah. Okay, so again, this is a destructive move. So you've got to have this virgin copy of Sunny sitting down here. Even though the background one is the virgin, the new Sunny copy is the one where we just cloned a little bit of the hair. But all of these up here are going to get destroyed right now to get rid of these spill issues. So to fix this spill issue right here, to get rid of the hair spill, it's going to be a destructive move. So to do this, make sure that the pixel layer is selected. Hit the B key to get to a brush. Now, instead of an overlay blend mode, you want to use a color blend mode. This means your brush will actually be painting with color. It respects luminosity, so the highlight and shadows will remain the same. What will simply change is the color, and that's what our problem is. So I'm going to zoom into this area right in here. Again, I'm going to make it a little bit larger brush. You need to make sure that this is a completely soft brush. And now this is the important one for spill removal. There's two ways that we could go after trying to paint this. What some people would be doing is that, and it's the way you should do it, you want to start from this outside and work your way in. And the very second you get the spill removed, you want to stop. If you continue to go in on this hair that does not have spill in it, you will change the color of this hair. So you will be fixing something that is not broken. Do not do that. It becomes really obvious what you're doing if you go down that road. So you want to work outside in, not inside out. Does that make sense? Okay, so going outside in. Much larger brush on this, completely soft brush color. We need to sample then the color of this girl's hair. To do that, you could click on the foreground color, bring up the color picker dialog box, and come over here and select a color of her hair. And you'll see that it's this sort of like darkish gray, and say okay to that. However, if you only pick one color for spill removal, you will spot it right away. You need to mix up your spill color removal colors. So as you go along, you constantly are changing the color of spill removal. So what I'm going to do, just watch me up here really quick, and then you guys can do it. I'm going to start on this area to remove the spill that's right up here by this little part right here. Again, the reason that you want to be working on the pasteboard is that I can get outside of this and only use the edge of my brush to fix this area right here, as opposed to having to be in here and coming out like this and destroying the color of all of this that's not actually broken. So to do that, again, on the pasteboard, if you hold down the Option key, you temporarily get a color picker. And you can see as you go around, anytime I'm just holding down the Option key and re-tapping my stylus down, and it will pick a new color for me. So I'm going to pick this color right here, let go of the brush, and get rid of that spill. I'm going to start this area right in here doing the same thing. Hold down the space bar to move the hand. Hold down the Option key to sample a new color of spill removal and continue to only do this. Do not push this spill removal in any further than it needs to go. This little area right here, I'm actually going to reduce my brush down like this to only hit that and only hit that and only hit that, because I do not want to change the color that's surrounding that. Otherwise, again, people will spot this a million miles away. And then go ahead and take your color picker back out to make it larger. I mean, not your color picker, your brush to make it larger again. Option key to sample a new color. And then again, finish this part out right here. Finish this right out here. It's new sample of color right here. Smaller brush, so you guys can start removing your spill now. However, once you get down to this area right down in here, actually we're okay because the mask is actually going to control this. You'll see it won't land on any of the skin or anything else. And double click the hand, and we have removed the spill, the blue spill on this side. You need to do the same thing on the other side because it exists over here as well. Again, working from the outside in. There's two little purple dots on there. I think that's a sensor flaw, or it's some fault in the data of the file. That will actually get rid of those two little purple dots as well. And that's how you remove spill. However, did that work for everybody? Say what? Oh, it is, right? I swear to God, true story. I showed this to one iteration of this retouching class, and I actually had somebody start to cry. They were in tears. And so when you look at this, I mean, again, when you turn, this part, turn everybody else back on, you can actually see now that we've actually got, here now we've got an issue as far as, well, we're picking up a luminosity change on this part, because what else have I done on this? I've pulled on that blue background again. That's what I've done. So you cannot add the blue background part again into this whole thing as far as this part goes. However, there is something that we can change depending on another move if we make this other move. Yes?
What would you do the skin showing up with
The skin, wait, the what? What you're worried about is this in conjunction with everybody else. So you got to turn everybody else on and then ask yourself a question: is that problematic? Do you see a problem there? Okay, so final thing. If we turn on one of those colors again to actually change the color of the background, so in my case, I'm going to turn off the white. I'm going to turn on this pink color that's back here. And you zoom in and you take a look at this. The issue now is that we removed the blue spill, but our problem is that now we actually, it should have spill, but the spill should actually be this purple color. So if you look at what we really just did, if you come up to the hair layer where we just made that change, it's this guy right here. I'm going to simply hold down the Option key and click on the eyeball. This is the hair layer actually by itself. If you hold down the Shift key and click on the mask, you get rid of the mask and you can see what it is we just did. The mask is controlling what we see. What we have done is we've gone in and we've painted that entire area with a gray color. We've made the background this gray color, and that's why you don't see spill anymore, because we've removed the blue from it. However, when we add the magenta color, when we turn the magenta guy on, there should be magenta spill in here right now, and there isn't, which is a problem for us. So to fix that, I'm going to go ahead and turn the bottom sunny on. We need to sample, we need to introduce spill. We need to add spill to it. So to do that, again, I'm going to go back up to the top. I'm working on this sunny layer, on the pixel layer right here. I'm again going to hit the B key to get a brush. Yes? Sure. Color is still my blending mode, 100% opacity, 100% flow. It's still an extremely soft brush. So instead of painting this hair that gray color, I'm actually going to be painting it this purple color. So again, I'm going to hold down the Option key to sample that purple, which I get as my, or lilac or whatever you want to call it, that color right here. Actually going to make it a little bit larger brush. And in this case, I don't need to resample. If I feel like the color that I'm introducing here now is too strong, Command Z to undo that. You can drop the opacity of this way down. So I'm going to drop it down to like a 27%. And now what I'm actually starting to do is introduce purple spill into this. Again, I think it's too strong in this area right here. Command Z to undo that. Drop it down even more. And now we're starting to introduce spill a little bit closer on where it should actually be. So you're basically just putting in the coloring that should actually be in there. And that's how you remove spill. There's one last interesting thing that we should talk about, and it's this shoulder right here. So on the shoulder part right here, you can see if we only look at, I'm going to turn everybody else off except for, well, here, I'm going to turn on the white layer right here. And you can just see that there's this blue line that's running along here. So the blue line, you get rid of spill exactly the same way that we actually did. So again, it's working on the pixel layer of the sweater. And to pick this, again, I'm going to hit the B key to get my brush, make it a much smaller brush. It's a soft brush. Color is where I'm at. Crank my opacity back up to 100%. Command click on this to get this color of my sweater to be the color of this. And then I'm going to simply run it along the top. And you can see that, again, you get rid of the blue spill that's on there. By the time you get down to yellow, you need to resample to yellow so that that spill goes to yellow. However, I've still got a line here that some people feel like would actually be too dark. To fix that, you go after, instead of color, you go after luminosity. Remember, luminosity is tone now. So now in terms of tone, what I'm going to do is, again, sample this color right here, and then I'm going to come after this and try to take the tone part of it out. The problem with doing tone like this, though, is that tone, you reduce all of the tone to one tone. So this kills detail, is what's happening right here. So instead of actually doing what I just showed you right here, more than likely I would go after this with a dodge and burn layer to actually lighten that up. So Command Z to undo that. Really quickly to show you guys what I mean by that, I'm just going to put a quick dodge and burn layer on here. So sorry, hang on. Dodge and burn. We'll make this a soft light layer. Go ahead and fill it with this and say OK. Make it a much smaller brush. Change it back to a normal brush. White is a foreground color. That'll actually be fine. Drop my opacity down to like 20%. Soft brush. And then just come along here and lighten the tone of this guy up. Make sense? And so that's kind of the before and after. So that's how I would do it. Okay, are there questions about this? Okay, Brewster, show me something new. Yes. Oh. Itchy head. Okay. All right, so you've gone a long way to turning Sunny in, so that's what I would do if I were you. She's your homework for this week. Aren't you guys happy I'm actually giving you a break in all this? Mm-hmm. I know, right? Okay. Yep. I would go ahead and finish stuff out, clean it up, make sure it looks good. Okay. We need to look in our classroom folder for today. We've got, oh, good. We got actually about a half an hour. We should be able to get through this. Force quit, so that at least you can start on this. You actually go on to this guy. I think you'll just, I wouldn't trust this guy, you know what I mean? And we're starting a whole new thing. Okay. If you want to get rid of Sunny again, you have to hit the F key once to get to the black pasteboard, F key again to get to the stoplights up at the top, and close up your file. You can save it. All right, so for this week, there is... So wait, I blew across that way too fast. Are we feeling good about this part now? Are we guys okay on this part right now? Yeah, going through this again, did that sort of work? Hopefully the videos will work again on that. It's just a game changer how this whole part works, guys. So that's the only reason I want to bring this whole part up. So in our class files for class 6 today, let me see the folders that we've actually got in there. I'm going to go to the choke and spread one first. I'd like to get through him first. Yeah, we'll do him. So if you click on there, do you guys have choke and spread, PSD? Okay, double click on this guy to open it up. We went through choke and spread briefly once before, but I want to talk about doing it in an even more effective way. So what you'll see in here is basically there is a, yes, in class 6. Do you have your class files?
Yeah.
Okay, in choke and spread, if you open it up and you'll see, again, if you hold down the shift key and click on the mask, you'll see this was shot green screen in the studio. If you click on the mask again, the X goes away. If you zoom in and take a look at this, there's a relatively good mask happening on this. However, I've got spill around the top layer of her hair, and I've got this green line that goes around her entire body. Now, the reason you end up with this green line, this is actually a situation that's caused by the way sensors work, the way that digital sensors specifically work. Because digital sensors, when you actually go through the whole demosaicing process and when they're turning raw data into a digital file that we can actually work on, there's an inherent softness that occurs in that. And so to combat that, all sensors basically apply a certain amount of sharpening to the edges. They look for edges and they try to apply sharpening there. And that's what's happened here. This edge here has actually been sharpened, and that's causing us a problem. We see this green line. That's the reason we see the green line on here. That's what's going on here. So I need to get rid of this green line. You can see it goes around her entire body, and you will see this every time we actually build an image to actually do a knockout like this. You wind up with these things. They're incredibly common. So we need to actually fix this guy. However, before you fix this guy, I want you to come over to your history palette, and you need to check and make sure that there's an option set up in your history palette. So if you click on the drop-down menu for your history palette and come down to history options, a dialog box will open up. Do you have a checkbox that says, that's next to show new snapshot dialog by default? You need that checked and then say okay. So what we are going to do here before we do anything on this image at all is we are going to click and do a snapshot. So if you click on this snapshot, a dialog box will open. That's what we just enabled in the options. And you want to name this snapshot pre-choke. Pre-choke. Again, I'll show you again. So everybody look at my screen. In the history palette, make the history palette active. There is a little camera at the bottom of the history palette. If you click on that camera, a dialog box will open and say new snapshot. And you want to call this new snapshot pre-choke. So what snapshots are, guys, is they are snapshots of what your image looks like at exactly the moment you made it. So what I've just done is I've created a version of history that I can use that is this image, the exact way it looks right now, with the line that's going around her, the spill in her hair, the whole 9 yards. That's what I've got going on right here, right? I just made a snapshot of that in history so that if I want to work with history, this is an option, one of the options that I've got. It'll make sense in a second. Yes?
And it's full document.
It's what?
Full document.
It is full document, yes. Okay. So then we are actually going to choke this thing right now. So you remember how choking actually works. To go over it again really quick, hit Command-N to bring up a new dialog box and simply create. Do you find this really annoying? Right? So anyway, just create a new document. It doesn't need to be all that great as far as this part goes. It does not matter what size. Drag out 4 lines just to create roughly some sort of square in the middle of your screen right here. Oh, yeah, to show rulers. Yes, you do. So up to view, down to rulers, so you can see your rulers. And then finally hit the M key to get the marquee tool and just select the square that's in the very middle. Wow, and these are not snapping too. No, it doesn't. I'm just trying to give you self-reference lines so that you can see what's actually going on. Sorry, hang on one second. Map to. Okay. Okay, and then hit the D key to default your colors to black and white and fill this guy with black. So this guy's filled with black. Command D to deselect. And then what you've basically got is white on a black background as far as this part goes. If you zoom in and look at the edges, you'll see that it's actually really sharp. If you hit Command H, you'll hide those guides. We'll bring them back in just a second. But you can see you make the transition from black to white immediately. However, you can blur this edge. So if you decide to blur this, come up to Filter, come down to Blur, down to Gaussian Blur, and let's put a blur on there of, let's not do 40, let's do 10. Let me see what 10 looks like on mine. No, it's too strong. Let's do 5 on mine. Not 105, but a 5. Okay, so what we've done is we've just introduced shades of gray in ours, right? So now look at my edge. Look at this edge really quick. Look at my screen if this is not working for you guys. What I just did was I went from a hard edge to a soft edge. And what that did was it introduced levels of gray into my black, but also levels of gray into my white. If you look where my guides are, they're running right along this line right here. However, I can now push those grays to either make them lighter or to make them darker, which in effect will make my square larger or smaller. So if you bring up Command L and you start to take the black and push it up, you will see that the black box is now pushing outside of that guideline. That is called a spread. We are making that larger. You can do the exact opposite. I just drug that thing and pulled it back. If you take the white point and bring it towards the black point, you will see that the black box gets smaller. That's called a choke. Does that make sense what's going on? So that's what we're going to do to fix the line that's in this green image. So you can close this up. You do not need to save that. So what's happening on this line, you can see it right here. Again, if you hold down the Option key and click on the mask, you will see again you have got a transition from black to white. However, in order to choke this thing, I need to add more levels of gray in here so that I can push the grays either to the white side, which would be a choke, or to the black side, which will be a spread. So again, I'm going to simply click back on my image so I see the whole thing. Click on the mask to make sure we're doing this work on the mask, not on the image. It is on the mask. We are going to go up to the Filter menu, down to Blur, down to Gaussian Blur. And in my case, I'm going to say that 5 is too strong. And again, this is another one of those things, you just learn it by doing it a lot. If it goes wrong and it doesn't work, you simply go back in history and you do it again. So if you start out at too big of a blur, come back and do a smaller one. Yes? I'm looking for layers of gray. I'm looking for tones of gray in there. So again, the problem always gets worse. That's what I'm looking for to begin with. This is what you're not looking for, is that. You're not looking for this monster glow around here, or this. You're not looking for that. You're just looking to introduce more levels of gray. Typically, you're going to probably be somewhere, it depends on the resolution of your image, that's the whole point. You'll probably be somewhere under 4 or 5 pixel radius. So I'm going to go ahead and say OK to this. And then look what just happened. If you look again at my, strictly at my, I'm looking at my mask alone. Look at mine. This is what just happened. Look at the difference that I've done. I've introduced, by blurring it, I've added these layers of gray. By adding these layers of gray, just watch my screen. Don't do this yet. Just watch my screen. I can now run levels on this. And again, running levels on this, if I take these levels of gray and I make them lighter, this mask is spread. If I take the black, though, if I take these levels of gray and make them blacker, this black comes in and it chokes it. So again, this is what happens. It pushes that whole mask in. This pushes the whole mask out. I'm going to cancel out of that. I'm going to watch this in real time. You can do this with me again. Make sure that your mask is selected. Command L to bring up the levels dialog box. Grab the black point slider and start to push in. And you miraculously see the green go away. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that looks pretty fucking miraculously to me. Again, before you say, okay, use your preview button to turn this on and off. Oh, I know a better way to do this. Let's go in and do the clone stamp tool around the entire body. That'll only take you, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours. Or simply choke your mask. Absolutely, Ari. I love the way you're thinking. You can be, all right. I'm thinking we start a new retouching agency here. Okay, anyway. If you feel like, though, that this made that edge too soft, you can actually grab the white point slider and start to pull it in as well, because what that does is it actually builds contrast along the edge. Now, you don't want to drag this in so much that you actually end up either bringing the green back or making it appear like you cut this thing out with an X-Acto knife. So in my case, I'm only going to bump it in a little bit. So in my case, this is what I ended up with. I ended up with a 173 for my black point, a 240 for my white point. Using the preview box on and off, whatever, this looks like the perfect choke to me until I get to her hair. But we will deal with her hair in just a second. So then I'm going to go ahead and say okay to this. Now, if you double-click the hand and look, and you'll see what ended up happening is that you can take a look, and you'll see that around her entire body, it got rid of all of that green line, which is a great thing. At this stage of the game, come back over to your history palette and do a second snapshot. And the second snapshot is called, again, you just click on the little camera icon. It's called post-choke. And say, okay. Now, if we come up and look at this girl's hair, and you can see her hair, what ended up happening is it just chopped through a whole lot of the hair. I mean, the choke worked great around her body, but it did awful things for her hair right here. So I want to bring that wispy part of her hair back. In order to do that, you come up to the top of your history palette. You've now got 3 stages in your history palette, 3 history states. You've got, let me just bring this down. You've got the state of when you very first open this guy up, and you'll notice that right next to it is a little paintbrush. That is the history brush. You can move that history brush. So what we are going to do is, if you come down on your toolbar menu down to the history brush, which is right underneath the clone stamp tool, there's 2 options. There's the history brush and the art history brush. You want to make sure that the history brush is the one that you have selected. And then, guys, and this is incredibly important, because if you do this wrong, you will fuck up your image. You do not want to actually pick the history state itself, which you could do. Do not do this. Look up at my screen. Do not do this. You could actually click on the pre-choke state, and that would bring everything back. However, if you make another move right now, you are going to lose all of this history right here. So do not do that. I'm going to go back to levels where I was right here. Instead, what you want to do is you want to click in this area that's right next to pre-choke to simply put the brush there. You do not want to make this state active. You simply want to put the brush there. When you do that, you can then come over to your image, make sure that your mask is what is selected, because that's what we need to bring back. I'm going to make my history brush a little bit larger, and simply click on this and bring your history state, bring the state of it back. So I'm bringing back all the wispy state of this again. Did that make sense what just happened? For instance, you can do this along the edge of her coat as well. If you click along the edge of her coat, you see that you bring the green line back. If you want to get rid of that green line you just brought back, drop your history state down to the post-choke state and then paint that line away. Again, what's happening with these history states is that it's returning the image to what was going on when you made the history state. So in this case, with this post-choke state, it's how I get rid of all of that stuff on the image. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. To see it in a really big way, you could actually come back and click on your original choke and spread state, which will bring all the green line back. You could still, though, click on the mask, click on your post-choke state, and you could paint the entire thing away around this girl's body. Now, this is what I just said will happen. Look at what just happened. When I went back and picked one of the history states, I lost all of my history. All that blurring is gone. The levels is gone. All of that's gone because I picked a history state. So I can still fix this because I can actually paint across and I can do that part. But you see where this is all going, right? So if you say to yourself, well, Verser, fuck that. I don't want to have to paint that whole thing out again. I'm going to show you one last trick. So I want you to make sure that the history, that the mask is selected. I want you to hit the L to bring up the lasso key. And what I want you to just do is select this girl's entire body. Don't select her hair. To select the rest of her body, I'm simply going to hold down the Shift key to add to my selection to select her entire body like that. So I've got her entire body except for her hair selected. I do have the mask is actually selected. Then you can come up to the Edit menu down to Fill, and you can actually fill with history as well. So in your content, pick history, and then in your mode, pick normal and say OK. And again, it will fill it with whatever history state has been designated here. And so that post choke just got applied again, and that little color is gone. Command D to deselect. Are there questions about this? This will change your life. This is actually what the Refine Edge, in the Refine Edge tool dialog box, you know where they've got the whole thing about edge enhancement, where you can soften it or smooth it or add contrast. It does this same thing, but what it doesn't do, it doesn't allow you to go in both directions. It only will choke masks. It won't spread them. And sometimes that's what you need to do. It also, the contrast part works pretty tricky. It's just tricky. Doing it this way, it's much more old school, but it's much more effective, and you can watch it all happen in real time. Okay, Verser, show me one other thing, and I can show it to you really quickly. Okay. As long as we've got this guy open, let's just go ahead and use this guy right here. Double click on the hand to kick back out. I want you to go ahead and just throw this mask away. We don't need to worry about history states or anything else in here. I actually want to do a selection, a green screen selection of this guy. You know, we've got time to actually do this. How many people in this room have never built an action in Photoshop? Okay, well, that's going to change right now. So what actions do in Photoshop is they basically record what you do so that if there's something you're going to do over and over and over and over and over and over again, you don't have to do it over and over and over and over and over again. You just run the action. So that's what we're going to do on this one. So what I want to do is build an action that will actually select this green in the background. That's what I'm going to sort of do here. And so this is how the action works. So to do an action, come over to the action palette, make it active. Then you click on the little icon that's, well, hang on one second, guys. Let me make sure this is the one I want to do this on. Sorry, I just want to make sure. There is a PDF on how to do this that's called Selective Color Mask Building. It's in last week's, so just so that you know that that guy's there. But we'll go ahead and work it on this guy. All right, so here's the deal. This is what we're going to do. So to build an action, come over to the Actions palette, click on the drop-down menu, come down to New Action, and it'll open up and say, what do you want to call this? And I'm going to call this Zero Selective Color. So I came over to the Action palette. I clicked on the drop-down on the outside of the Action palette and came down to New Action. Look up at my screen. I let go of New Action, and I'm going to name this new action Zero Selective Color. And start to record. You can leave this in your default sets. You probably only have a default set, All default sets are is just like you can do groups of layers, you can do groups of actions over here. If you wanted to build a new group, you would simply click on this little folder icon. But for right now, it's fine to just leave it in your default actions. So I'm going to go ahead and say to record this. And now everything I do in Photoshop, it's going to record. And so this is what I want you to do. The first thing I want you to do is click to make sure that the green screen layer is the one that is active. Then I want you to come down to this to add a layer adjustment on this, and I want you to come up and add a hue saturation layer to this first. Then I want you to come right back and add a second one of these, and the second one you're going to add is this selective color. And when you do that, it'll put this selective color adjustment layer up on the top. Your image will not look any different at all, but you will see up here in your properties palette that the color red has been selected. You will also see a series of colors right down here, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. This was actually an old, this is one of the, this goes way back early in Photoshop. This was a piece of software in Photoshop that was designed to help printers control the amount of ink that would hit a plate on a printing press. So this is stuff you guys are never going to do in a million years, but we are leveraging this tool to be the perfect knockout tool. I have a $500–600 piece of software that knocks green screen out. This works better, and it's free. So aren't you happy I'm showing this to you instead of saying you should buy that $500 piece of software? Yeah, I knew you would be. Okay, so what? Because I didn't know this. I learned this, developed this afterwards. So at any rate, this is what we do. So what this is designed to do is control ink. There are two moves that you can make in this. And what I'm just going to ask you to do is, with the red selected at the top, you only touch the black ink slider, and you take the black ink and you drag it all the way to the right-hand side. And what you have just told Photoshop you want to do is you just told Photoshop, anything in this image that is considered red, I want you to flood that with 100% black ink. Make sense? Click on your drop-down menu under reds and go to the next color down, which is yellows, and do the exact same move. Drag the black all the way to the right-hand side. Down to the greens, click and drag all the way to the right-hand side. Down to the cyans, click and drag all the way to the right-hand side. Down to the blues, click and drag all the way to the right-hand side. Down to the magentas, click, drag all the way to the right-hand side. Everything, everything. The whites all the way to the side. The neutrals all the way to the side. And finally, the blacks all the way to the side. Now, if your screen does not look black like mine, if it looks some weirdly solarized thing, it's because you need this absolute radio button selected. If yours is already black, do not change that radio button. It'll fuck up your action. But what you should see right now is a black screen. Does everybody have that? Yeah, click on the absolute button. Okay. You need to stop your action now. You've just built it. So to stop your action, come over to the Actions palette, and it's the little square that's sitting right next to the red button. Just click on that guy, and your action will actually stop. To see if your action worked, throw both of those adjustment layers away. Come over to your action in your action palette. Now you'll look and you'll see I named mine Zero Selective Color. This is a whole series of steps that are inside the action. You need to select the very top level of it. This is really the action itself. So select Zero Selective Color, and then simply click the Run button, which is the little triangle guy. And it should take your image back. Again, if you do not get this black screen, it's simply because you need the absolute button checked. Make sense where we're going with? We're good on this one, right? So here's the trick. If you go back up to the greens, and you take this slider, now this is a weird concept, but this is how it really works. If you bring the slider back to its 0 point, what you've actually told Photoshop to do is don't do anything to the greens. So before I said, I want you to flood the greens with 100% black ink. Now I'm saying to Photoshop, don't do anything, and you see part of them. The reason you don't see this is like completely is that that was not a pure green. That background was not a perfect pure green. So at any rate, this is the hard thing to get in your mind, but this is how it really works. There is a negative black ink in Photoshop. It's theoretical, but it exists. What's the opposite of black? White. So even though we don't ever really think of white ink, that's what's happening. If you click this and drag it all the way to the left, you are filling the greens with white ink. Does that make sense what's going on? And so that's what I'm getting here. Again, it's a weird thing in Photoshop, but that's so what I've said I want Photoshop to do with this action that I've just built right now is I want you to fill everything in this image with black ink except for the greens, and I want you to fill the greens with white ink. So the last trick that I can do in this is that, again, in theory, if this was a pure green in this background right here, this would be white and everything else would be black, and I would have the perfect mask to actually start with, right? Isn't this a whole lot easier than picking the red channel? Right? Can I make my green more green? How? Right? So to do this, make your hue saturation actually active. You don't need to see it. You don't need to turn off the top part. You don't need to do anything. All you need to do is make the hue saturation layer active, and then you need to click on this targeting adjustment tool at the top. Look, it's right under preset in our properties panel right here. What this does is it will pick whatever you drop your cursor on, it will pick that color for you. So you'll see right now, this is set up to do master, which is all of our colors. But if you come over here and you click on the top of this green, you will see that greens just got selected in my properties panel. And now when I drag to the right, it actually saturates the color. When I drag to the left, it desaturates the color. So what I want to do is drag up to the point where I'm actually bumping this up and getting it a little bit more desaturated, but you do not want to go to the point that you fuck up this hair. So zoom into the hair, and you can see that I'm reaching a point now where there's this weird halo thing that's happening around her hair. It's too strong, so I'm going to simply click and drag this back down a little bit till I'm right about there. In some images, you can crank this out and you will get a perfect mask right away. I mean, immediately, when I show you guys how to shoot greens, I don't even know what class this is anymore. I've completely lost my mind. I do show you guys how to shoot green screen in this class. I will show you how to get a much better green than the one that we've actually got going on here. But so at any rate, I'm going to leave mine at a saturation boost of about 11. That's what I'm actually going to go for here. So that's where I'm at right now. Finally, I need to clean this up. In order to clean this up, you'll notice that over here in your RGB channels, you're looking at basically a black and white image. If you actually step down through it, you'll see that the green and the red and all of those are exactly the same. You would simply copy one of them. It doesn't matter which one you copy. I'm going to just copy the red one. The hue saturation guys have done their job. You can turn them off. I'm simply got my red copy going right here. I'm going to take my eyedropper tool, color sampler tool. I'm going to drop one in her head, which is already black, and one in the background that's right behind her. Command L to bring up the levels dialog box. Change my readouts. Again, what we've been doing all along, guys. This is no different. Change my readouts, please. RGB. You'll notice that the girl has already gone to black. I got the background at around 100, and so I'm just going to start to drag this color back to actually get that to go to white. And go to my arrow keys. What you'll also notice is that there is tone that's in the girl. What is going on here? Yeah, my screen this is like really screwing up on mine right here as well. Oh, you know what it is? This is screwing up because we've still got the hue saturation guys are selected. You need to actually have the image selected, and then click on your red copy, and now bring Command L. And again, you should have RGB. You should be able to change RGB readouts now, and this should work infinitely better. Yep, you do. But now, even though my 0 point, I see 0 right there, look at, I've got tone in her body right here. You can see there's tone in her body. So again, I'm going to go ahead and say OK to that. But then I'm going to move this point down to one of these sort of gray areas right here and hit Command L again and just look and clean up that. It's around a 6 is what it is. So I'm just going to clean those guys up right there. Looks like I need to hit that a little bit harder. I'm just eyeballing the contamination that's in her skin right here, and go ahead and say OK. double click the hand and look at the fucking mask you just made. How would you finish this mask up and get her feet? 10 tool. How would you get rid of the little holes on the side of her body? And then what about the rest of this? Okay. Who cares about the rest of it? It doesn't matter. It's just, right? As long as I've got this edge, that's all I need, right? I do a big old selection around all of this and fill the rest of the body. Are there questions about this? We will use this guy over and over and over again. Drop your homework. Are there any questions? Are we good, guys? Game changer. You start showing people this kind of shit in an interview, you not only will get the job, you'll get the money you really deserve. No, you do not need to save this. Yes, I will go to the Dropbox.
Oh.
Yes. Oh, guys, that guy.